Hey gamers, how you doing? My name is John with Gamester81.com, and in this episode I'm going to be reviewing the Omega Entertainment Machine. If you haven't heard of this console before, don't feel bad. It just came out. It is a fan project, and it's available on a website called arcadeworks.net. It retails for $500, which I know it's not cheap, but hopefully by the end of the review, you guys have a better understanding of it, and you'll understand that it is worth it, especially if you're a huge fan of the Neo Geo like I am. Now there's three basic ways to collect the Neo Geo games today. You can go with the MVS, the multi-video system, and that is basically the arcade, which is cool, but it takes up a lot of space, especially if you have a big arcade in your room or game room. They're very, very heavy, hard to move, and takes up a lot of space. You can also buy the Neo Geo Aes, which means Advanced Entertainment System, and that's the home console version of the MVS. And those are cool. The used Neo Geo Aes will typically run anywhere from $200 to $250 with some joysticks. But the thing about that console is it's the most expensive to collect for. Games, for example, like Metal Slug, the first Metal Slug on the AES, the home version, is really hard to find, and it's usually retails for a used copy of Metal Slug usually sells for $300. Where if you get a used copy of Metal Slug for the MVS, the arcade, that usually sells for about $80. So big difference in price. So yes, the console is about half the price as this thing, but the games oftentimes are twice or three times more than you can get for the MVS. So in the big picture, if you're looking to play a lot of great games for the Neo Geo, it's definitely worth investing in the MVS if you're looking to get into more cart collecting. That brings me into the third platform you can collect for Neo Geo, and that is the Neo Geo CD. Now the CD is probably the least expensive to collect for. Granted, the loading times are a lot longer, and a lot of collectors don't necessarily like collecting for the CD because of that. Also, a lot of the games weren't ported for the CD, so there's a handful of games that weren't ported. So a lot of collectors see that the Consolized version of the MVS is the ideal version to collect for because A, it takes up less space, B, the games are a lot less expensive to collect for today, and C, you got the most games available for the MVS, including multi-carts, which have hundreds of games in one cart that you can play on the MVS, which aren't available to play on the AES. Now there is actually a fourth option. You can purchase an adapter, and you can put the adapter into a home AES and put in MVS carts. Problem with the adapters are A, they're not very cheap. They can get very expensive. And B, a lot of the games, the MVS games that will play in the adapter, they don't necessarily transfer very well, I should say. They don't really play very well or as well as they could be. So it's definitely not the most ideal way to play games, although a lot of people will decide to go that because it is another option. So without any further ado, let me take a closer look at the Omega Entertainment Machine. So I'm going to open this up, and one game I got with this is Ironclad. Ironclad, if you guys are unaware, was initially a Neo Geo CD exclusive when it first came out to kind of help promote that console. It was never released to a cart form until a couple years ago. The Wii Virtual Console, Nintendo decided to release the game for that format, and a fan actually took that ROM and decrypted it and discovered that the original ROM for the game was embedded into the emulator there. So they took that and created this cart, which is homebrew cart, which is kind of cool. So I'll do a review over this on a separate video. I've never played it before, but I'm really anxious to play. I've heard it's actually a pretty interesting game. It comes with a whole bunch of different connecting cables. You have the SCART, which is actually a European connection. You also have a component cable here with the different colors here. It's all these components and connections are actually compatible with the Omega console. Also the composite, this is the red, white, yellow, and that works as well. S-video, okay, which is cool. And finally I have a power cable here, and it's compatible with all power voltages, so it will work in Europe, it will work in Australia, work in Japan, in Asia, all over, which is really cool. So you don't need to worry about the powering down or up or anything like that, the voltage and burning up your console. This is the actual unit itself. Let's unwrap this. Here it is. This is the Omega Entertainment Machine. This is multi-video spec, as it reads here. This is definitely a throwback to the original AES console design. It looks really, really cool. It's very actually lightweight. It's not as heavy as it would look. It's got a nice spring-loaded trapdoor here to protect dust flaps. If you look carefully, you see the SNK logo. It's the original board from the MVS arcade, so it plays the same games. You got your indicator light here. It's also got two controller ports here, and it's compatible with both the Neo Geo joystick, AES joystick, as well as the Neo Geo joypad, which is neat, very convenient. The console itself does not come with a joystick. And also notice it doesn't have a slot for any of the memory card. So if you have a memory card or use a memory card, it doesn't have that, unfortunately. So it is missing that, but on the back, it has your on-off switch. This is your power adapter here. This is where you plug it into. Your AV out. This is where it plugs into your TV through the component or composite or the SCART connectors I just showed you earlier. This is the world's first custom molded enclosure for customizing a Neo Geo MVS arcade board. So it's custom made. It's Quan, who's the owner of arcadeworks.net, actually designed this himself. I'm going to compare it to a size of a Neo Geo Aes, so you can kind of see comparison. You can see the Neo Geo Aes is actually significantly longer, so it's not the same, even though it may at first appear to be the same, it's not the same encasing. Also, the Omega is actually quite a bit taller, so it's a little bit narrow, but significantly taller, about by an inch taller. They both weigh about the same, actually. So when SNK released the Neo Geo AES, it came out after the MVS arcade, and the games, even though they were several $100s oftentimes, they were still less expensive than the MVS. So what to prevent, SNK did to prevent people from buying the lesser expensive AES cards and putting them into the arcades, they designed the games slightly different so they're not compatible. So, for example, this is an MVS card. This is Super Sidekicks. It has 2 boards. You can see it's super long. It's a big, big cart. It's huge. And this is a game for the AES. This is non-1975. You can see just the look of them are a little different. They're about the same size, but you can see that the AES carts have a sticker. They're a lot more for, so you can look at them and, see what game they are, whereas these were encased into arcade. Not many people would see what this was. You just only had the label here, so when you're changing in cards, you can see what they were. But the interesting thing at the very bottom here, you can see the boards are a lot different. So the MVS boards are a lot longer than the AES boards. So they did that to prevent people from buying one and going to the other. So that's why you can't necessarily play MVS carts on an AES console, and that's why it's important that you want to pick up one of these MVS Consolized MVSs, because it's a lot more convenient, a lot less expensive. Plus, you can play multi-carts on the Omega, and you can't play multi-carts on the AES. And multi-carts are carts that have a whole bunch of games in them. I'll show you an example. So now I'm going to show you an example of a multi-cart so you can kind of see what I mean. So here's the multi-cart I'm playing on this Omega Entertainment machine, and this cart has 111 different Neo Geo games in one. They have carts out there that have 150 or more games in one, and you can only play it on the MVS machine. This is pre-ISLE 2, a really fun shooting game for the Neo Geo. I highly recommend. It's kind of like R-Type meets Jurassic Park is the best way I can explain it. If you hold down select and start, you go to this screen here. There's this bio screen. You can do add cheats to it, which is cool. It's kind of like a game genie, so to speak, for the Neo Geo, which makes the games a lot more easy, obviously. But you can change the dip settings and all that good stuff. Let's back to the game. Select your helicopter. Check your level of difficulty as well. It's kind of a short game. It probably takes about maybe 30 minutes to beat, but the graphics are really fun. I highly recommend pre-ISLE 2 if you own a Neo Geo. So in conclusion, I'm going to recap the pros and cons of the Omega Entertainment machine. We'll start with the cons. First con I can think of, and probably the only con I can think of, is the price. It's certainly not cheap. You can get a Neo Geo AES home console for about half the price. But that's really where the cons end for me, honestly. I think there's a lot more pros to owning this particular console compared to an AES. First pro is the games for the MVS are significantly less expensive than the AES counterpart. Secondly, there's a larger library of games available for the MVS, and because of that, you can actually play a lot more games for this console than you can for the Neo Geo AES. And third, it takes a lot less space than actually owning an MVS arcade in your game room. So it's a lot more portable. It takes a lot less space, so that's always a positive thing. Fourth, it's got a whole bunch of composites, so you can play actually in higher depth than you can on a MVS arcade. So the quality of the picture is a lot better. The audio is a lot better as well. So overall experience of playing the game is more improved. And finally, fifth, you can actually play it all over the world. It's region free as far as outlet and watches go, so you can play it in Europe, you can play it in Australia, in Japan, no problem at all. It is adaptable to those regions as well. Well, thank you guys as always for watching my review over the Mega Entertainment Machine. What do you guys think about it? Do you guys like the console? Do you guys like to pick up one? I'll certainly put a link to arcadeworks.net below if you guys are interested in picking one up yourself. I'm curious what you guys think about the Neo Geo. Are you guys a big fan of the system? And if so, what are some games you recommend? Please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.